Hello, greetings, namaste. I would like to speak about non-duality. Everything that I say will just be a concept. I will use words and I will fail, and that's okay. But some words come closer to the truth than other words. So let us both relax and not take this thing so seriously. This life. Yes, there are serious moments, adult moments, moments when we have to be responsible and respond to life, attend to life. But even, and perhaps even more so in these and during these events, it's best to somehow relax. We don't want to close down and become even more contracted than we already are. But let us relax always. Let us pray always, as St. Paul said. Let us open and surrender to God, to oneness, to the divine, always and everywhere. Whatever that means to you. Relax. Trust in God, because all there is God. So, what is non-duality? There are many definitions, but, well, non-duality itself says it right there. Not two. Non-dual. Advaita means not two, so there's only one, but actually, there's not even one. There's nothing. There's nothing, and this nothing is simultaneously appearing as everything. The nothing and the everything are not two things. They are two sides, we could say, of the one coin. All there is this emptiness, and this emptiness is also fullness. This form is also formless. The absolute is the relative. So there's not two. So what does that mean for the person, for the me, for the ego, for the one who feels separate from life, separate from God, separate from others? Well, let me speak to that one. I've got some news for you. You do not exist. You see, the brain creates a sense of self. Sense of self. That is the key word. More important than the word self, it's the sense of self. So, of course, for most of the 7 billion human beings on this planet, for most of them, yes, they probably feel like a self, a separate self, a person. And that's neither good or bad or right or wrong. It's just what is appearing to happen. But that sense that you feel, that sense of self that you are experiencing, actually, if you pay attention, you'll notice that it's not always there. The self isn't so predominant. It's not that we walk around saying, I am a person, I am a person, I am a person, I am separate, I am separate. Actually, the self sort of comes and goes. There's this dance between meing and being. So sometimes we very much feel like a me. Perhaps it is those times when we're either experiencing great pain or perhaps experiencing great pleasure. Perhaps it's when we are triggered by somebody cuts us off while we're driving, or we cut our finger while we're cutting vegetables, or somebody disrespects us, right? We get very angry. I have been disrespected. So these events, they tend to trigger that which we would call ego. Nobody treats me like this. This shouldn't happen. This shouldn't be happening. Don't you know who I am? This kind of stuff. And of course, more subtle experiences of that as well. So the brain creates a sense of self, but if we just look now, because we can only look now, do you actually find a self, a solid center? Is there a solid center here? Thoughts, okay, there are thoughts, but no thinker. Thoughts are just coming and going. Some thoughts don't make sense. Some thoughts we don't believe. Some thoughts seem very irrational or very much based in imagination or fantasy. So the brain creates some 60,000, 70,000 thoughts a day. We are not all of those thoughts. We're none of those thoughts, actually. But even those thoughts that we identify with are small in number. We don't identify with all 70,000 thoughts. We don't believe every thought that passes through consciousness, thank God. So thoughts come and go, all by themselves. Thoughts, of course, are nothing else than an experience of consciousness. Same thing with what we would call feelings and emotions. Usually I say there are 4 basic emotions of anger, sadness, fear, and happiness. And those feelings just happen. Yes, there are emotional reactions, again, to life. Certain things happen, and then we feel either anger, sadness, fear, or happiness. So these emotional reactions, they just appear to happen. There's a bit of cause and effect. Sometimes nothing is actually happening, but we are believing a story that's being played in the mind. And if we're conscious, we can see that we're believing this story. We can understand why it is that we're feeling the way we're feeling. But for many people, they don't even realize that their awareness has been, let's say, kidnapped or something by the story. So the consciousness, the awareness is believing the story, And sometimes it's a very subtle belief. It's a subtle thing that's happening. It's an underlying process. And because we believe this story, we start reacting to the story in the mind. We start stressing, or we start becoming sad or jealous or angry or afraid, because we're believing a story that's being told by the mind, and we might not even realize we're doing it. So the emotional body is reacting to thought. For the most part, we can say that thought comes first. That everything begins with a thought. That out of nothing, there is emptiness, and then somehow, it's really kind of miraculous, a thought appears. And we either believe that thought or discard that thought. But there's always a relationship with that thought. That's why it's so important to, let's say, know the mind. And mostly, if we look at thoughts, we will notice that thoughts are usually rooted in either desire or fear. And the desire is usually a desire for pleasure, and the fear is a fear of pain. So just to simplify the mind, if we start to pay attention to our thoughts, we probably will come to notice that most thoughts are either desires for pleasure or fear of pain. So I want this, I don't want that. And that's pretty much the human being. That's what makes up the human mind. So I want this food, I don't want that food. I want to live here, I don't want to live there. I want this job, I don't want that job. I want this partner, and here's the list of conditions and characteristics and aspects of the person that I want. I want these 10 characteristics, and I don't want them to have these. And I want to see this person today, I don't want to see this person. I want to spend time with him, but not with her. So pretty much, this is our life. This is the mind of the human being. I want, I don't want. There's an attraction and a repulsion. It's kind of a strong word, but so attraction and then, I don't know, a denial or a pushing away of something else perhaps, or avoidance of something. So that's pretty much the human being. Now there is something about love. And what is love? Love is a mystery. But there is this presence of love which could be called the fifth emotion. And this love transcends all the other four emotions and all the other thoughts. And when we come into contact with this love, and I'm talking about unconditional love, we could say there are degrees of an ability to experience this unconditional love. Maybe you can't be 100% unconditional love, but you are. Your true nature is 100% unconditional love. But let's say now in this human experience, you can't access all of that love. That's okay. But you may notice that this love just, again, sort of miraculously appears at various times throughout the day. Perhaps, as we said, you're in traffic, and first, anger arises. I don't want this to be happening. I don't want to be in traffic. I don't want to be stuck in my car. I want to be home. I want to be with my wife and kids or TV and whatever. And then sometimes this love can just appear out of nowhere. And you see, in the presence of love, everything disappears. Anger, sadness, fear. It's like if you walk into a dark room, even a room that's been dark for 1,000 years, 1,000,000 years, it doesn't matter. As soon as you turn on the light, all of the darkness disappears. That's the power of love. As soon as this love is present, real, unconditional love, not just a little love, but this overwhelming love, when it is present, all of these other emotions, they dissolve. Or perhaps for some, there will be a freedom to express these emotions without resistance, without control. And that can be a very pleasant experience, actually, to feel the pain without any resistance to the pain. Because usually we're pushing away the pain, we're fighting with the pain, we are controlling the pain, we're trying to suppress it, we're trying to get rid of it. We don't want pain, we want pleasure. So sometimes it's actually a very satisfying experience to accept the pain, accept the anger, the sadness, the fear. Why? Because that's what's happening. Life, it goes so much more easily when you accept what is. Because that is the truth, and the truth is always liberating. Anger. Sadness, fear. Whatever the emotion is, whatever the state of mind is, can you, without force, just relax and allow everything to be as it is, without any control at all? Can you just simply allow life to flow like a river between the banks of pain and pleasure? So, all there is this. This is God. This is oneness. This is life. And it's not happening to someone because there isn't someone. There's no one inside the human body. There is consciousness. There is creativity and intelligence. There is compassion and understanding. But there's no separate self. There's no ego. There's no person. Again, there's no center. Perhaps you feel an energetic contraction. What is aware of that contraction? Is the awareness which is aware, is it contracted? No. It's impossible for awareness to be contracted. Awareness is empty, spacious. It's only the consciousness, the energy of life that contracts and expands and contracts and expands again. Consciousness is always changing. It's a shape shifter. Consciousness is playing. Now, sometimes consciousness plays and we don't like it. We suffer because of the contraction of consciousness. We suffer because consciousness believes thoughts which are not true, thoughts which are stressful, limited. I guess all thoughts are limited. So sometimes the play of consciousness is entertaining. By the way, the mind loves to be entertained. Notice that this is so much of the human mind. It's just simply trying to entertain itself. I mean, look how much money we spend on movies, books, music, sports. We are constantly trying to entertain the mind. Even though there's no mind. But that no mind doesn't really enjoy sitting in silence very much. Because while we are sitting in silence, there's nothing for the mind to do. And it becomes restless. It starts to lose its sense of self. So it has to start complaining, or judging, or fighting with what is, or struggling. If it doesn't do those things, the mind, the ego, the person disappears. And the ego does not want to disappear. It's trying to survive for as long as it can, but its time is limited. Either when the physical body dies or before. But that sense of self will stop one day. And when it does, it will be seen by no one that you are never the self. There are many people now who have experienced the death of ego. The self has collapsed, and yet that being, that character, continues to function in the world, because you don't need the ego. The ego does not like to hear that. The ego will be the first one to tell you, you need me. Where will you be without me? I am so important to you. But not true. The consciousness. I mean, come on. Does God, the creator of the universe, does he need your ego? As Swami Vivekananda used to say, God has not fallen into a ditch. He doesn't need help. He remains Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, the creator, sustainer, and destroyer. God is omnipresent, omniscient, omnipotent. And yet your ego says, God, you need me. No. Now, I'm telling a story in a sense. I'm using a bunch of words, when in reality, all there is this. And this doesn't need a story. It doesn't need anything. It's 100% complete. You, what you are, is 100% complete, full, empty, full, empty. So it sounds like a contradiction. It's paradoxical. And yet that's what's happening. Nothing appearing, apparently, as everything. This is emptiness, fullness. So again, for most of us, 7 billion people, the only thing that's ever happening in every moment, the only thing happening is awareness of consciousness. That's it. That's all that's happening. That's all that's appearing to happen. Awareness of consciousness. Awareness is the context. Awareness is the space. Awareness is not an experience. An experience has a beginning, middle, and end, but awareness has no beginning and no end, no birth, no death. It is the space in which the consciousness, the changing, changeful consciousness, expresses itself. And that consciousness within the realm of experience, all experience has birth, life, and death. So consciousness is everything that is changing. Thoughts, consciousness. Feelings, consciousness. Actions, emotions, sensations. Smells, tastes, time and space. All consciousness. Everything is energy. Everything is life. Just playing. Just expressing itself to no one, for no one, because there is no one. Again, it's not actually happening. Nothing is happening. This is 99.9999999% nothing. Emptiness. Dark energy, dark matter. Nada. Nothing. Nishta. So this is nothing happening. Should we be serious about nothing happening? Should we try to do something in nothing happening? Should we seek something in nothing happening? There is nothing to seek, nothing to find, because nothing has been lost. This has always been here. The beloved never leaves you. The beloved, love, and the lover are all one, 3 expressions of the same one. all there is the ocean of being, the ocean of God, the ocean of loving kindness and compassion. And it is emptiness, fullness. It is immeasurable. You can't measure nothing because there's nothing solid to measure. And sometimes the body yawns. All of the biological processes, all of the physiological processes are all just happening by themselves. And actually, life is the same way. Life is just simply happening, or appearing to happen, all by itself. There's no one doing life. There is no doer. Show me a doer. Show me a self. If we cut open the brain, do we find a little tiny person inside the brain, driving it like some sort of big robot or machine? No. There's no one. So there's no one, but what is here then? Because something is here. That's what we say, right? Something's here. I am aware. I am conscious. I am alive. Something is happening. Something is being perceived. Yes, awareness of consciousness. Awareness of the world is awareness of consciousness. Awareness of God, ideas of God, beliefs in God, images of God is awareness of consciousness. Awareness of friends and family, colleagues, neighbors, that is awareness of consciousness. There is variety and difference, but no separation anywhere. That is oneness, awareness of awareness. What is aware? What is paying attention? What is listening to these words? What is aware of the body? What is aware of thought, feeling, sensation, action? What is aware? Now, right now, sense the awareness. So it doesn't matter what happens on the absolute level, because everything is the absolute. Everything is the ocean. Everything is life. Again, it's only the me that has preferences, likes and dislikes, wants and want-nots. So for the me, for the person, it will always be trying to make things better. And there's nothing wrong with that. But just see the trap. See the carrot which is dangling in front of the me. If I could only get that carrot, I would be happy. So happiness is always at a distance. It's always something that will happen in the future, we hope. Love is something that I will find in the future. God is something I will find in the future. Enlightenment, self-realization, liberation, these are all events which will happen in the future. So how do you think you will feel in the present if you imagine that everything will happen in the future? But of course, life is always now. It doesn't mean, and of course it's impossible, to have everything happen right now. So you're not going to buy a car and buy a house and get married and succeed in your career and do it all right now. It's not going to happen. That's why we have time and space. That's why we have this appearance, this illusion. We start off as the baby, and then the baby grows up and becomes the adult. And throughout this process, the person is always trying to get what it wants. It wants pleasure. It doesn't want pain. And the person, the self-image, think about it. The self-image is always trying to improve itself. It wants to look attractive. It wants to be smart or cool or wise or whatever it feels is important. Whatever it values, that's what it wants to be. The self-image can be embarrassed, humiliated. Everything is in relationship to the self-image. I won't do that because that's not part of my self-image. What would people think if I did that? That's not who I am. This is who I am. A, B, and C. And so most people are trapped in their self-image, in their self-consciousness, because they want everyone to like them. They want everyone's approval. They want God's approval. They want the church's or religion's approval. Perhaps in a way they want the government's approval. They want approval from their friends and family and colleagues and from their boss for sure. I'm trying to do well because I want approval. Because I want a salary, a big salary. I want money because I want to buy things. Because if I buy these things, I will be happier. And I want my colleagues to respect me and to like me. Because basically I want love. Every human being wants love. Whether or not we are conscious of that desire. In a way, you could say the inner child, the baby that we used to be, which is still present, it just wants the love from the mother and the father. It just wants love from other. The baby was very safe in the womb. The baby was very safe, I suppose, at the mother's breast. The baby was protected and warm and loved and cared for, hopefully. And so it wants to recreate that experience so that baby grows up, and as it grows up, it tries to acquire love. It wants to find people that make it feel good, that make it feel safe, that make it feel protected, that make it feel valued and cherished, perhaps even adored. So all of these processes are happening, and yet again there is no self. It's amazing. Consciousness is amazing. You are amazing. And if everybody just stopped, what would happen? The world would just stop and perhaps crumble. But the awareness never stops. The beingness never stops. The Absolute has no birth and no death. But everything in the physical realm has birth, life, death. Silence, stillness. This is silence speaking. This is stillness moving. That's really all that can be said. This is nothing. Appearing is everything. This is the Absolute, Supreme Reality appearing as the relative world, the relative self. There's nothing to do. There's nowhere to go. There's no one to be. This is emptiness, fullness, nothing, everything. So relax and allow life, oneness, allow it to unfold, allow it to dance, allow it to express itself, and allow the me, the person, the ego, the energetic contraction, allow it to dissolve and disappear into nothingness and love. Peace and love. May all beings be free of suffering. May all beings be at peace. May all beings be healthy. May they have clean water and healthy food and shelter from the elements and clothing. May all human beings be blessed by what is, by love, by you. Peace, peace, peace.